Hi, everyone. I'm Ryan Pacchini. I'm the Senior Director of Product Marketing here at Acquia. I've been in the digital experience space for over 15 years, helping both government agencies and commercial organizations figure out how to adapt to all the changes that are going on around them when it comes to digital and how to make meaningful connections with their constituents or customers. Acquia is one of the top two solutions in Gartner's digital experience platform report. That's a mouthful, but what it really boils down to is we help organizations with all of their digital content and all of their digital data and marrying those two things together to create a great citizen experience. Often that starts with the content that lives on your website or your mobile app. So many customers come to Acquia looking for help reimagining their website and how they deploy great content on that website. But in this presentation, we're going to walk you through a maturity curve for government organizations. What is the foundation and what you need to do to make a meaningful connection? What is advanced when it comes to a digital experience for a government agency? And what is expert? And we've done this in the context of some of the organizations that we've worked with, both in the federal space as well as some in state and local. So let's go ahead and get started. In terms of our agenda, we're going to look at government, commercial, customer and citizen experience trends and the connection between these two, because they're really starting to blend. And why is that taking place? Where you can get started on this journey in terms of digital transformation, or where you can continue to evolve if you've already taken the first few important steps. And then my colleague, Rob Ellis, is going to take you through a demo of a few of our solutions to give you some insight in terms of the technology that's available to help you, whether you're revamping your website or you're thinking about how to get a single record of all your citizens and how to action that data in a responsible way. So some of the top government trends, which many you're probably familiar with, but citizens expect, first and foremost, better experiences that currently live online. They don't necessarily match to what's going on in the commercial world, and there's a need to up-level those experiences that exist today. Second is more digital services are moving online. This was expedited by the pandemic. Interactions that typically took place in a physical building needed to transition to a digital form, whether it was filling out a form or talking with an agent. Those things quickly began to move online at the beginning of the pandemic, and now it's the new normal. And often the connection with the citizen is the content. And with the explosion of devices, citizens are expecting that content to live on any digital screen where they engage. Obviously, the website is critical. A mobile site or mobile app is important. But the emergence of things like conversational interfaces like Alexa or Google Home, as well as digital signage and wearables, are becoming more and more important for citizens when they interact with the government. And then the last category is really around personalization. In citizens' personal lives, they recognize that they can get value when an organization knows about them and can deliver them products and services in a more efficient way. But government agencies are in a unique place because there are bounds that a citizen is not willing to cross just because they don't want to feel like the government is intruding on their personal lives. So how do you, as a government agency, figure out how to deliver a personalized experience, which they're beginning to expect, without breaching their trust or making them feel like you're checking up or have too much information about them? And there's been recognition, I think, across many government leaders that while you're not maybe a Walmart or Target with endless resources and analytics teams and things of that nature, there is a push to do a bit more and try to close the gap between what's going on within a customer experience on the commercial side of things and a citizen experience within the government. And when you look at the top commercial trends, you'll see that they're a little bit further advanced, but there's commonality between them. So digital services are now becoming the preferred method for many customers in the commercial world. They're getting used to hyper personalization, and this is really driven by companies like Amazon, where they recognize the value of giving their data in exchange for a better service. But there's still this notion that they want to make sure that they have security and there's protection against the abuse of their data. And that's why you're seeing more and more legislation that's impacting the commercial world. And the reason that these two trends are looking so close, these two sets of trends are looking so close, is because it's all happening on the same device. In the span of 5 minutes, a citizen may engage with a federal government agency, and then they might engage with Amazon. And so they're not always making that distinction. Hey, this is the commercial world. This is the government world. It's just an experience that's happening on their primary form of interaction, which is their phone. So where do you need to get started as a government agency? What is the first step that you need to take in order to close that gap and deliver a great digital experience? The first is getting your primary asset, your primary communication channel right, and that's your website. And with the city of LA, they thought about this in three kind of distinct phases and categories. The first is they needed the right infrastructure. They could no longer run their websites on-prem. They needed to move to the cloud, and they needed a new delivery, meaning who could deliver on that website. It couldn't just be an IT experience anymore. It needed to be a collaborative experience with all of the members of that agency who could deliver content. So this was comms folks, this was service folks, et cetera, et cetera. And then website engagement. The city of LA recognized that it couldn't just be about the utility. There needed to be some experience that went into it. And they needed to think about the navigation, the presentation of that content to improve the kind of delivery that they had and experience that they have for the citizens. So what was their process? First, they wanted to standardize on one platform for all of their digital content. No longer a platform for the web, for mobile, for email, one platform to deliver content across any channel. Second is they wanted to change some of the workflow in terms of how the content was delivered. IT could no longer sit in the middle and look at every content change and make that on their own. They needed to pass off some of that work to non-technical users or communications folks. And so that freed them up to focus on the next channel, the next iteration of their digital experience that needed to take place. And then finally, they really looked at the user experience, and they contracted with UX and UI experts. They did user surveys to see, hey, how fast did you find the content that you were looking for? And then they collected data around how what the customers thought about the overarching experience using things from the commercial world like NPS surveys. So there was a focus on not just the utility, but the experience that went into their web properties. And you can see the results were tremendous. In 2015, they had 3 websites. To today, they have 68 websites. Now, some federal agencies might not have this many websites, but they may have different sites or different sections of that site with very specific teams who have different content needs that will rely on a modern infrastructure to deploy that content. This whole ecosystem was built on Drupal and the Acquia platform. We are tightly linked. It's Acquia is the commercial organization that supports Drupal, one of the largest open source projects in the world. So that's the foundation. What do you plan for if you want to evolve or create an advanced citizen experience and really differentiate for your agency? Well, the first is starting to automate that citizen engagement. You know that there are certain questions and tasks that happen over and over again that are resource intensive. How do you take those resources and shift them to other things that improve the citizen engagement and allow the common question to get automated through a chatbot or other forms of technology? The second is introducing new digital applications. And I think the most common use case is a support forum where someone can log in and submit the information that's needed without having to ever engage with the human being, and streamline some of that process. So that could be through a citizen portal. It could be through an application, but introducing these new digital applications and capabilities. And finally, deploying content on new digital channels. This often will help you automate the digital experience because they can interact with a kiosk as opposed to waiting in line for an agent in some capacity or waiting on a call center queue. So once you've started to think about automation, next is personalization. And personalization, there's multiple phases to it. The first is really trying to get a centralized citizen record. So you're consolidating the sources of data that are going to impact what this citizen wants. Then you're focusing on utility-based personalization. What I mean by that is it might be geographic personalization, but you're not necessarily using demographic information right now because that might cross the line to feel intrusive. And then enabling your teams to start small, do some basic A/B testing to understand what citizens are going to engage with more effectively. At Acquia, We have a unique vantage point when it comes to marrying digital content and digital data to deliver that optimal citizen experience. We are built, like I mentioned earlier, on open source technology. Obviously, we have a governance and security layer that sits on top of that. But what it means for government agencies is they can assemble the right content and right data for any citizen experience. You no longer have to have a kind of a big monolithic application that you have specific channels for specific use cases, and you don't necessarily need to use kind of a newer, less proven technology system, whether it's a decoupled application or a headless CMS. Acquia kind of sits right in the middle, provides that enterprise security and governance with the flexibility to compose the right content and data. You can see, I mentioned earlier in the presentation that we have been the fastest rising digital experience platform, which is really about content and data, by Gartner. And we're the only solution that's considered open and has the level of flexibility that they hone in on when they look at some of our key benefits. A ton of government experience. Here's just a few of the agencies that we work with, whether it's the NIH, the MTA, the IRS, or Fannie Mae. And real quickly, some of our security standards, we are FedRAMP moderate, as well as there's a variety of other certifications across other industries to give you the peace of mind knowing that while it is open source, there is a layer of security built in that's battle tested by some of the most stringent federal agencies that are out there. And finally, two quick case studies. MTA is an example of a customer who decided to use Acquia's platform to deploy content at every phase in the customer journey. So if you look at the MTA on a website or the MTA application, or if you look at the screens in the subway stations, all of that is powered by one content platform, which is Acquia. The City of Boston is another organization that we helped recently. They had unique needs around scaling up their content for COVID, as well as utilizing data to make sure that the right information was pushed out to specific regions within the city and teams to keep folks up to date on what's going on with COVID, where they can get vaccines, et cetera, et cetera. All of this running on the single platform, Acquia, for all that content and data. So that's an overview of the maturity model and how Acquia can help when it comes to government agencies and their thoughts around digital transformation. I'm going to pass it over to Rob to take you through two of the solutions within Acquia's product family, one focused on content, one focused on data to help you deliver those citizen experiences that delight and meet them right where they are. So Rob, I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to pass it over to you to allow you to go ahead and jump in.
Thank you, Ryan. So can you see my screen?
We can.
So let me introduce myself. My name is Rob Ellis. I'm a Master Solutions Engineer with Acquia. Been with Acquia covering the public sector for about 5 years now. Prior to that, was a developer in the public sector space. Most recently, before joining Acquia, I was based out of Health and Human Services, helping one of their departments migrate off of a legacy CMS onto Drupal. And as Ryan mentioned, he highlighted that idea of both content and data. And, government agencies have recognized that this is the foundation of a great constituent experience. First, mastering the content and being able to get out the message that needs to be delivered, but then also leveraging data most effectively. In terms of content, right, we understand that content is king. It is what's at the core of government organizations when they are reaching out to their constituents and the citizenry. And it's really important to be able to get those messages out effectively and efficiently. When we think about content specifically, a lot of times it's helpful to think about the public affairs teams, the content authors, the groups within the organization who are tasked with making sure that the message is properly crafted and delivered efficiently and in an engaging way. Acquia is able to assist with that through a tool called Site Studio. And what this is it is a low-code site building tool for the Drupal CMS. And really what this does is it addresses the need for content authors to be able to easily and efficiently put together engaging communications. Instead of having to rely on IT or open a ticket with Site Studio, you have a low-code drag and drop interface that allows you to quickly and easily create compelling content. So the benefit when we think about Site Studio, it's helpful to look at the traditional workflow for CMSs. Traditionally, you would have a designer come up with a look and feel, and then once that mock-up was delivered, they would hand it off to a developer. And the developer would go through all sorts of steps to create the sort of technical requirements to then hand that off to the content authors. This was a very developer-heavy workflow at no fault of the developer. This is just how the CMSs have traditionally been made. With Site Studio, we're able to really bring in more of the team, enable and empower less technical team members with really helping with the brand design, layout, templating, and overall governance of the site. And the benefit of this is that it allows you to free up developers to focus on hopefully more high-value tasks like custom code, custom integrations, new feature releases. And so let's take a look at Site Studio in action. So here we have a demo site, and in this case, we're going to step into the role of a content author. So say I've been tasked with creating a landing page for a new announcement that's going to be coming up towards the end of summer, that the department has more services that are available. So I've been given, a rough outline of the information that should be provided, and I'm tasked with creating that landing page. So we're going to simply go ahead and create a new landing page here. We'll provide a title. And you'll see we have a layout canvas here. And what this allows me to do is to access my component library. And this component library is made up of all of the tools and features and widgets that I'm going to need to build out my landing page. What's nice here, though, is it gives me a lot of flexibility to create a compelling page quickly and easily. So in this case, we'll grab a hero component and then just begin to build out the page as necessary. So in our first column, we'll add a heading, some text, as well as an image. If we find that there are components or elements that we create often, we can save those as templates. So if I wanted to add, say, an accordion item here, I could drag and drop each accordion item, but this is something I've done before, so I saved it as a helper. So I can easily grab that component that has several accordion items in there, and I can go ahead and update the content. And then last but not least, we're going to leverage some of the existing content within the site, and we're going to grab an existing location, and I'll drop that over here. So with each of these components, they can be set up to have default content within them. So we're going to go ahead and update the hero image here. I'll add the text there, some information about the announcement. And we can also update the layout, provide a background image. So we'll grab this from our media library and go ahead and save that. All of these other components have default content in them, so we'll just leave them as is for now. And for the location, we can identify the specific location that we already have within our system to display on the page. And with that, we can go ahead and publish the page. And within just a minute or two, the content author has been able to put together a engaging, compelling landing page that required nothing more than just interfacing with the user interface, and didn't require an IT ticket or any special technical knowledge. And this is really the power behind Site Studio, is to really enable and empower those non-technical content authors to be able to create the content that they need quickly and easily. So the other item that we mentioned is data, and we're going to drill in a little further here. We see data as the lifeblood of powering experiences, and Acquia unlocks the possibilities of the data that you already own, so that you understand that data, you can trust it, and you can let it inform your business decisions, and actually use your data for enhancing that constituent engagement to its fullest potential. So currently there are multiple market forces converging right now, all centered on how organizations collect and use data, customer data, constituent data. And these forces are changing the marketing data and constituent experience landscape. And these changes are all being driven by a dramatic shift on how people's attitudes, how people view their attitudes towards their data. In study after study, constituents are telling us that they want more control over their data. 85% say they want more control, and 79% of Americans at the same time are concerned about how data is being used by companies and organizations. At the same time, people are comfortable sharing personal information to help organizations provide services more effectively and efficiently. So they're fine with the data being used, but they want it to be used responsibly. In response to this market shift, many regions have put in strict privacy regulations like the California CCPA and other pending regulations across the country. And these regulations require greater transparency and rigor around how organizations collect and use constituent data. And for the first time, organizations are now accountable to know, exactly what data they collect, understand where it lives, control how it's used, and how constituents can grant explicit consent. Google has announced that they'll be phasing out third-party cookies from the Chrome browser. And this means that users will no longer be tracked as they browse online, and organizations will no longer be able to rely on this data to power audience segmentation and personalization. Even Apple has announced new features to alert consumers and constituents as to how their data is being tracked. So in other words, organizations will need to rely more heavily on the first-party data that constituents have given them, instead of over-relying on anonymous cookie pools and anonymous customer segmentation. These market shifts are here to stay, and the success of government organizations will rely on how well you adapt your communication strategies to these changes. So how do you adapt to these changes? Through a first-party data-led approach. While organizations have long recognized that using owned first-party data is a wise practice in theory, now it's no longer optional. It's the only way organizations will be able to acquire, engage, and grow that constituent relationship. And organizations that lead the way in first-party data strategy will quickly pull ahead. As you can see, you can reduce ad spending, boost margin where applicable, increase engagement and loyalty, enable smarter organizational planning and strategy, and really give constituents the relevant experiences that they crave and that they've come to expect. One important note, though, is that you don't have to do everything all at once. And in fact, a lot of our customers start their engagement with straightforward, simple outbound marketing and communications use cases, and dramatically improve email open and click rates, triggered campaigns, and engagement from direct mail initiatives. And working with our customer success team, we put together a roadmap for success where you can continue to leverage the Acquia platform to enhance experiences across different channels. And the way we do this is with the tools and expertise that the platform offers. In terms of tools, we have a marketing automation tool that allows your communications teams, your public affairs teams, to orchestrate cross-channel journeys, build email and SMS campaigns, and create last-mile experiences for constituents, and all while leveraging native constituent data. We also have Campaign Factory, which allows you to use Campaign Studio at scale. So marketing teams can deploy multiple sites across brands and geographies while ensuring governance. We also offer a CDP, customer data platform, or constituent data platform. And this allows really the organization to take advantage of that data component, to unify data into a single individual, to gain constituent insight, and then segment based on what you know about that constituent, segment the message so that you're delivering the right message at the right time. And then finally, our personalization tool provides robust A/B testing and website personalization to help departments boost conversion rates and engagement. And we do that all through a simple-to-use UI that allows for 3-click campaign launching, as well as the ability to provide personalized and multivariate content experiences. So as we've seen, content and data are keys to the success of government organizations. With the capabilities, tools, services, and expertise that we've seen here on the platform, it's clear to see why Acquia is a proven leader in helping organizations like yours manage and deliver compelling digital citizen experiences.